Westward by Wagon Train, Families United by Hendricks. Introduction. Between the years 1840 and 1860, nearly 250,000 people traveled west across America. This journey became known in history as the Great Migration. Many of these pilgrims were families. Fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, and even grandparents made the difficult journey. Families packed up their belongings. They left their homes behind for the promise of many things. For some, it was the appeal of wide open spaces. There was fertile land in the Oregon and Washington territories. For others, it was the promise of great riches in the gold fields of California. Whatever the reason for this Western fever, those making the journey knew it would be dangerous, and the journey was long. It would take nearly half a year or more to travel the 2,200 miles. The travelers would go from civilized Midwestern America to the largely uncharted Pacific coast. Today, families in cars make the same journey in a matter of days. They pass through many cities and towns along the way. But back then, the journey was quite different. There were no paved roads. There were only a few rutted trails. These paths most often followed rivers that wandered through the land. These westward emigrants had to bring all of their supplies with them. There would be few places to restock along the way. Only a few military forts had been established in the Western territories. There were no hospitals or doctors available. If someone got sick or hurt, they had to rely on the kindness of others to nurse them back to health. The land these pioneers were traveling through was mostly unknown. Many dangers lurked. Unfriendly Native Americans posed a potential threat, though not nearly as much as most travelers imagined. Bad weather could strike at any time. River crossings could be very dangerous. There were great mountains to climb and harsh stretches of desert to cross. In short, these westward pioneers were subjected to more dangers during their half-year journey than most people faced in a lifetime. Through all these hardships, family members counted on each other. There was strength in numbers. Even single men and women who headed west often joined a family. You will see in the pages ahead that there was no greater resource than the family to help travelers survive the long, difficult journey. Chapter 1. Saying Goodbye. By the late 1830s, most of the eastern part of the United States had been settled. Great towns and cities had sprung up along the East Coast, including New York, Philadelphia, and Boston. Settlers had moved beyond the original 13 colonies. They had spread throughout the Great Lakes region, the Great Smoky Mountains of Tennessee and Kentucky, and the humid lands of the South. The border of the young United States of America stretched all the way to the Mississippi River. As immigrants from Europe continued to pour into America, some folks began to feel crowded. They read of tales of settlements on the opposite side of the North American continent. The lands of the Pacific West Coast were the new frontier. Once Western fever took hold of a person, it was hard to shake. In 1841, Benjamin Kelsey caught the fever. He headed west with his young wife, Nancy, in one of the first wagon trains from Missouri to California. Jesse Applegate and his brothers, Charles and Lindsay, caught the fever in 1843. They were part of the first great westward wagon train. Jesse would later go on to establish the Applegate Trail from Fort Hall, Idaho, to the Klamath River Basin. The Gay family of Springfield, Missouri, was struck with the fever in 1850. It took hold of James and Harriet Ward in 1853. That same year, the Knight family packed up their home in Monroe County, Iowa, and headed west. The fever did not take hold of every family member equally. Martha Gay was a teenager when her father told his family they were going west. She recalled later in her journal that Mother was not willing to go. She did not want to undertake the long and dangerous journey with a large family of children. Martha and her brothers and sister weren't very impressed by the idea either. But Mr. Gay was taken by the promise of free land in the Oregon Territory for...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?